It's been said before, and I'll say it again. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So where would you rather be than right here and right now on the Ralph Rant? Let's go.
Welcome to the Ralph Rant, your source for hard-hitting Buffalo Bills takes. Now, here's your host of the Ralph Rant, that veteran watcher of generations of Bills teams, the prophet who predicted Josh Allen's greatness, that opinionated so-and-so you've walked out on parties because of, the Ralph.
Welcome to the Ralph Rant. Welcome to the Ralph Rant. I am your host, the Ralph. Thank you ever so much for being here. This is our belated post-game show. I almost choked on myself starting this show. I'm so excited about this. This is our belated post-game show. I normally go on almost like 15 minutes after the final gun. I was at the Ralph this past Sunday. What an experience. And I'm going to talk about that a lot here, actually, to begin with. And then, of course, we'll get into the game and some of what my thoughts are as far as how the Bills are doing what I think I've described them as doing in a couple of past shows. But again, thanks, and probably have most of the regulars in here already. We've got a few going anyway, so thanks so much. And maybe it was because it's the final season at the Ralph that it was meaningful, but that's not really what hit me so much. It's obvious that this situation at the stadium is going to remain the same in terms of the tailgating and so forth. The atmosphere can only be described as college-like, of course, if you want to think of it in that sense. You've heard that said many times. The entire day was so cool, and I've got to say, for people that have made noise about the fact that the stadium, the new stadium, is not domed. That is, you will have outdoor temperatures, outdoor weather, even though a lot of the fans are actually covered. It'll still get cold in there, and it will still snow. And if you're a fan of a team that perhaps plays in a dome or plays in warmer weather, your whole experience and paradigm for what that is has to be different. I did the shopping the day before. Now, I'm not a professional tailgater there with some of the setups people have, but we did well. I went out to Tops Friendly Markets. Of course, everybody knows about Tops in the Western New York area. Their sausages are the best, some mild, some hot. And then we were set up to grill and do the peppers and onions also. So the night before I'm getting ready to do this, I've got the truck mostly packed. In fact, I got so excited I kind of lost my glasses in the truck and went nuts for a while trying to find them. I'm only slightly nearsighted, but you want to see everything as clear as you can at the game. So that was an adventure, but it got all loaded up. Actually went and got the onions and peppers chopped up. You don't want to do the onions small. You're doing them just in slices like this, so you have like the arcs, and the peppers in strips. And brought along the pot and the olive oil. We're going to get those cooking right on the stove as soon as we get there. I get up at 6 a.m. with the alarm. I'm at my mother's house, which is right on Lake Ontario in Olcott, New York, if you're familiar with that. Get up at 6 a.m., and it's already lightly snowing. It wasn't expected to get going, actually, until partway through the game. So I get the coffee made, make sure I have every last thing ready to go into the vehicle, most of which is already in there from the night before. And then I go to suit up, and it's like getting ready for like a moon mission. And it's the entire experience is a blast to me from the moment you get up, with the layers, the long thermals underneath, sweatpants, then snow pants, got the good socks, the boots, I don't like wearing an actual jacket at the game. I wear a jersey as an outer. Maybe I can get this picture of it going here at some point here. I see if I can't get that into my info and show you. But I'll tell you about that part of the day as we go along here. But get dressed, get ready, go out and pick up my buddy Bruce. He's had season's tickets for 11 years, and he's not continuing with them next season. He lives out in Long Island, actually, so it doesn't behoove him. He doesn't have any family that would be wanting the tickets in the area, so he did not go for the PSL. But he has been a club seat season ticket holder, and he was kind enough at the beginning of the season to ask me if I wanted to go to a game with him and which game. And basically we settled on the Bengals for December 7th, a good, wintertime game. We'd see how it would be and so forth. So I drive and pick him up, and then it's snowing already. We're going down the road from the lake to get towards the highway. That's about the first, third of the trip or whatever. It's about an hour drive to the Ralph from where we were located. And we jump on the highway, and it's snowing even more. And then you're taking basically the 290. If you're in Buffalo, you're familiar. We actually took the 990 to the 290, and then you get off on 90 west, essentially heading towards Erie, and then break off onto the 219, which is another expressway. Of course, if you're not familiar with the area, you won't know what the hell I'm talking about, but it was all good. And then we're driving down the 219 and come over a rise, and there it is. You can see first the new stadium, which looks bigger from farther away, if that's possible. It's strange how that appears. And then you could see the lower lights of the Ralph and portions of the top portions of the upper decks. And we approach the stadium. We get off on Route 20A and then go down and make the turn just south of the stadium to come up to Abbott from the east. And of course, we're in lot 2, which is right in front of the entrance of the stadium. He had tickets in the Dunn Tire Club, which is on the Bills side of the stadium. And so we got a great spot along the rail, but right next to the walkway. And on the other side of the rail, on this very wide walkway, we could actually set up the grill and so forth there. So we get that going. I put the peppers, and the onions, which are in a bag, into the pot, add the olive oil, get them on the burner and going. They start steaming and get going. We get the sausages on the grill, and we crack open the beers. Fishing and tailgating are the only 2 times a beer tastes really good at 9:12 a.m. And so we got to cooking and just are watching some folks. We had some guy come over from another tent just across the way with a snow shovel, because they'd gotten rid of the snow on the majority of the width of this big walkway we were on, but not the very edges. And he came over and shoveled our area for us. This is what Bills fans are. They're just so cool. There's no other place like it in the world. And we had been started cooking by then, and Bruce goes, "Boy, I think he was eyeing the sausages." I said, "That's why we bring tons, whoever." And anyway, we ended up giving him a sausage hoagie, which you cannot describe how good this tastes in the cold, coming off the grill when it's hot like that. There's something about it. And then I'm just looking around, and it's snowing some more. We're right next to the new stadium. We're basically between the 2 stadiums, essentially, from our parking location. There's Bills fans coming in, and yeah, I'm not local. Some of the gear that Bills fans can wear to the games isn't even available around here. I guess you could search it out of the web. But it was like, it's just like a slice of heaven. You're in Bill's country, grills are going, fires are going, people walking in. You hear the siren, and then you see the Bengals buses pulling in that go out behind the practice facility and then behind the stadium to get in. It was magical. It was magical even before game time. And so then we went ahead and we ate, and then we are going to go do what Bruce describes as the walk of shame. I don't know why he uses that term, but it was awesome, and it was just a blast. We walked down a little bit east and then started heading south, just in front of the training facility down Abbott. We made a stop at the Gorilla Garage, which, if you watch Bill's Stadium Live, they are responsible for the live feed showing the build of the new stadium, and stopped in there and said hi. I could not run into the guy who actually does the videos. He wasn't there just then, but a lot of great Bills fans in there. We did go live in there. Some of you may have seen the video that's out there. We did a couple of them. Actually, I'm trying to figure out precisely. I see one is up there, which I didn't think was actually going to make it up, so I was glad to see that. And then we continue back. We decided to go in and just walk in back at the stadium, and that was after we went through a particularly rowdy part. We're trying to find Pinto Ron's area, but everything is kind of different with the parking situation being altered with the new stadium build. But we walked through there, a lot of craziness. There just great parties, Bills fans just everywhere. And it's funny, there are Bengals fans there, but no one is nasty to them. They might be funny in terms of the types of things they're saying or whatever, but it was definitely a friendly atmosphere for that. And then you end up having I just checked one of the comments there. One surprised me. I'll have to get to that here in a moment. But then we went into the area of basically the Dunn Tire Club and walked out to where the seats were, got a look at the field, and there was some warm-ups going already. And then we came back out, grabbed a beer, did some more walking around, and then got back into the stadium after our last stop at the vehicle, which was actually close by the stadium. We're fortunate for that kind of parking. And then we get into the game, and I'll talk about some of the things with the game here, but the thing that I think interests me the most, we know how the whole affair went, and when I got home from the game and started looking at some of the coverage of it, and even hearing some of the broadcasts, because I walked into the house and basically brought it up on YouTube TV and started. I wanted to see what the broadcast looked like and hear the call of the game. And the thing that struck me the most was that all of the broadcast itself, and a lot of the people that were watching the broadcast, some of the podcasters I heard of, were just so on edge with this game and how it was going to turn out. And rationally, you can look at the timing of what's going on, based on how the Bills essentially were down 10 points with what was it, 5-6 minutes remaining in the game. But it was funny. Bruce and I were sitting there watching the game, and we're in the first half when I believe it was the first. The first half when James Cook actually had the fumbles on both drives. The first one when he almost crossed the goal line but fumbled out of bounds, but then there was the penalty that was accepted because of that. So now the Bills start running plays again and get down to a first and goal after Keon Coleman's slant catch. And then James Cook fumbles the ball into the end zone, and it's recovered. And, of course, by this time, it's was already 14-3, and I believe that was the score at the time. I'm just trying to recall now, but Bruce looks at me and goes, and it must have been 14-3 still, and he goes, well, it looks kind of worrisome, doesn't it? And I just said to him without even thinking, I just said, no, they're going to be just fine. They're going to be just fine. I don't know actually why I said it. You couldn't help but get the feeling early on in the game that, here we go. Here's another 27-10 in the snow like we had in the divisional playoff a couple of years ago. And that has stuck with the Bills, but not to go off on a tangent. That particular season, with the game being moved, the Cleveland game being moved from home to Detroit, and then having to play in Detroit 4 days later on Thanksgiving, being snowed in Chicago, and spending Christmas Day trying to get home from Chicago. And then, of course, the Damar Hamlin, I don't know if we call it incident, accident, whatever we want to term it, but Damar Hamlin's situation. And then I just believe that the Bills' emotional gas tank was kind of spent. And, of course, there's also the rumors, I've never heard it confirmed, that Josh Allen's home kind of got trashed by his ex the night before that game. And the Bills lose 27-10. Burrow looks unstoppable. And look, Burrow's great. He just is. Joe Brady gets a lot of credit as a D coordinator, or offensive coordinator rather, but he has had very, very good players. I mean, he's had Joe Burrow and now Josh Allen. But that being the case, it just felt like, to me, it was going to be okay. And then I was never really worried in the game as we went through it. It was very, very strange. The perception of the game being there was very, very different. I'm going to get to some of your comments here, which are building up. I need to get to them. Thanks. Woke's Joke is in the house. Thanks again for the live shots from Sunday. I love your content. Keep up the awesome work. I certainly will. And I'm still vying to get to maybe another Bills game or even two this season. I've got an idea to actually perhaps go and see them in Cleveland. You'd be amazed at what a bad team, or a team that hasn't been great over the recent past, what that does to ticket prices. There's some good ones. Black Cloud is in the house. I know I said on game day when you asked the score, I said the Bengals beat the Bills 27-14. I was wrong. The second week in a row, they come out in the second half and make huge defensive stops. Amazing. And Black Cloud 319, I'm going to actually get to that point about your second half there. Let's get some of the comments out of the way earlier. I usually wait too long, and then we're way behind. And to think no playoffs with Mahomes, Burrow, or even possibly Lamar to stand in the Bills' way to get to the Super Bowl. The stars are aligned for us more than ever. Yeah, we're going to talk about that also, and that's basically what this playoff situation could look at. I used to see you on WGR. Good to see you again. Perhaps speaking. I've never been on that radio station, and just got to win this weekend to have a chance to win the division again. That's true. We're going to talk about the playoff situation and scenarios that we could be looking at. Jeff, I3T 7G, sounds like a robot model. I hate these new handles. What an amazing experience received being at that Bengals game. Please share with us the emotions in the moment Brentford picked up the pick six and watching his Josh's long touchdown run and his. And actually, I'm going to get to a couple of these right now that we're mentioning them, and I'll address this one first. Well, what's interesting about going to the game, and if you've gone, I haven't gone to a bunch of games, but I tend to try to focus on different areas than just the ball. You see how defensive line is doing. How many are they sending? How are the safeties lined up? There are football greats like I don't even like Rex Ryan, who could just see it all. But and all the time without having to check. But it was interesting that your focus is so different when it's going on. And there's not the distraction of not only announcers, and some of which we don't like with some of the Chris Collinsworth type of thing. I'm not a big fan of Kirk Herbstreit for that matter. In fact, I love listening to the radio broadcast, but I didn't do that either there. But the other thing you don't have, and the NFL is getting, the networks anyway, are getting ridiculous with this, giving us a close-up of the quarterback in one part of your screen with the sight of the whole playing field with the teams in the other. I don't need to look at this quarterback. Look at him on the sideline. And I'm not even talking about just other players. Even Josh, show us the game. They're overproducing the shit out of these games, in my opinion. But having said that, when, for example, Josh threads that ball, that was down on our end. The Bills were going left to right. Our seats are about on the 10-yard line, if you look straight down. So that play was right there. And it's, the fourth down, and you see Josh coming out and starting to scramble and not finding anything. And there's that little tense worry moment there. And then he throws this ball, but it was wild because I was like focused for some reason right on Khalil Shakir, right on his 10. I could see the ball hit him and catch it. And it was, I was just really focused on that. And then, I mean, that play was amazing, and how he got that ball in there was, literally amazing. And then on the Benford interception, actually watching down, now that was with the, that's like on the 43-yard line or something like that of the Bengals. So that was in the far end. The Bengals would have been coming from our left to right at that point, but focused on it. And I just saw Benford catch that ball and then just start down the field. And, I guess, I don't know, was I thinking about this after having watched the broadcast, or there, you see number one, that's Jamar Chase. Will he catch him? But he did not. And, you're not just cheering yourself or cheering with your partner. You are high-fiving with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 people within your reach around you. And it was amazing, but it was just strange being at the game. I was never really worried. Now I'll get as worried as anybody watching. You could see marks where I've paced the hardwood floor, in the like the 3 to 13 or 14 feet from the television I can pace on during a game. But it was just very, very different being there. So to spend some time on that. And then, there was the remark earlier about the first half and second half. And if you follow the podcast, a week ago or so, I did this thing about the Bills' hive mind, which I really actually believe that is the case. And I explained how the Bills have a collective consciousness that it's not really a spoken thing amongst the players. It's almost more of a subconscious thing that's a collective one of the team and how the team reacts. And I believe that the changes the team makes actually always occur during games. It's not going on so much during the week. I mean, the team is practicing, they're together, they're all friends, they love one another. It's very tight like that. Those are all ingredients you need for a hive mind in the sense of doing it with humans. But it's more of a subconscious thing, I believe. And for 2 weeks in a row now, and I'll preface this with saying that I explained in the hive mind situation that it's not a mind that's figuring out exactly how to do things perfect so you win every game. What it was doing is it's testing failure modes of the team. The hive mind in my belief, was testing what happens if we do this great or do this poorly. What are the other effects? And then exploring that with each facet of what you do in the game of football, as I explained. And of course, there are many: how well you run, how well you pass, how well you defend, this or that, all of those metrics, so to speak. And the Bills are testing their failure modes of those. And as they go through and learn from this, then I think, and they're doing so, in losses, but also in wins, because I don't think it's as mindful of that. It's just playing the game and figuring out how things are going. And as an example of this, Christian Benford admits that he was not playing a correct technique on the pick six. His actual job was to execute a particular technique, which I believe was going to be either, I don't know what he explained, but either a pass rush, but certainly leaping up and trying to bat down a pass was not what he was really there for. But it just came upon him to do it. And then you see the very next play, Big Phil gets his hand up and tips the pass up, the very next offensive play after the Benford interception return. And Big Phil tips it up, and Epinesa intercepts the ball. And, I mean, explain to me these explosions. I mean, the Bills, look, have been great and crappy, both. Just about everything you can think of over the course of the season. Again, this testing of failure modes. And I just see that what happens is that it's almost like rope-a-dope to me a bit. And I actually asked Arthur Moats about this when I had him on a couple of months ago. And he really didn't comment on it that he totally agreed, but it seems to me that the Bills and their defensive approach are in the first half doing a little rope-a-dope where they're allowing the opponent to execute what it is they're trying to execute. You keep a cap on it, and it was going to be tough a little bit. I mean, a couple of those long throws. Burrow's amazing. His receivers are amazing. I mean, what a great testing ground it was for the Bills. And it's interesting that, the pass rush wasn't quite getting there. He was getting rid of the ball quickly. The snow definitely, had an effect. I walked on that field after the game, and there's definitely an effect. And the field's kind of soft a little bit on the top, but not a great deal. It seems like it had a little bit of give, but just to a point, which of course it's a concrete slab somewhere under there. But in getting back to it, you can't react as well on the snow. And in a defensive position, that's what's going to happen. Bills almost got there on some pass rushes. They were back there. There was a lot of cushion by the Bills defensive backs early on in the game. This allowed all these, 8 of 9 third down conversions or whatever it may have been. But it's almost like the Bills are testing this out. And they even, end up getting ahead. Like Ali with his rope-a-dope tactic used to let guys think they were doing well. And then he just turns around and steps on it. And this is really what happened in the second half. And it's not that Cooks fumbles. Yeah, certainly if he doesn't fumble or if he scores right at the pylon there the first time without losing it. But even then there was a penalty. But even so with all these things, and then actually being down the 10 points in what was like a playoff type of scenario. It was, it felt like a playoff game in a certain sense like that. And that hive mind or whatever it was just explodes then in the face of the Bengals, of Joe Burrow, even to the point where the announcer I heard of the broadcast afterwards is saying, well, lightning can't strike twice in the same place, and that's not going to affect Burrow at all. and he throws another interception. So and then Josh Allen just takes over. He's like he's like the big kid in high school who can do all these things, and he's just like a man amongst boys when he takes on that character. And I know a lot of us have been worried that might not be there anymore. Oh, it's there. It's definitely there, and that will never change with Josh Allen. But the run for the 40-some 43-yard, well, it wasn't so much of a scramble. There was somebody has to be near you to be able to call it a scramble. But I mean, he looks so fast running on that field. It's like, fuck, dude's fast. I mean, he just got down there. It was like superhuman almost. And but that's kind of my thought on the game. I mean, and again, I just, for some reason, I wasn't like sitting worried in the second half, but maybe I was just so engrossed in what was going on. And you just felt like when the Bills had the great drive to start the second half, and then getting the stop on Cincinnati, and then getting the ball again, you just felt it was going to be okay. It was strange to me that the Ty Johnson, the slip and fall, he needs to call lawyers to, you slip and fall. If other people slip and fall at the Ralph because of ice, they can sue. But boy, when Ty fell there, it sucked. It was weird, but it was so strange to me that just felt like, to me, it was much later in the game than it was. I guess the sort of observing the game was kind of like almost kind of time warpy in terms of how fast certain portions of it seemed to go, and then how slow others did. But anyway, back to more of the comments, because I ramble on. It was just a magical experience, though. Where were we on here? Just got to win. Yep, we got that one. And we talked about that. I'm still in WGR. I can only just take so much before I tune off. Their chat room gets me too crazy with all the nonsense takes and the callers that they get. I mean, do they actually screen for like the drunkest callers they can find leaving the game? Sometimes, that's kind of strange. And maybe they're just doing chat now because I haven't watched it, but I guess they still show up in the Bulldog, and boy, they sound a little bit different to me. Actually, it's been a long time since I've listened, but I think I caught some of that because we were coming out of the stadium, and then we listened to that for a while with a couple commercials, and then just went right over to Bill's Squad with Jeremy White, the Big O Jerry, and Joe Marino to hear their take as we sat in the traffic to get out. Tops is better than Wegmans. Okay, I don't live there, but I love Tops, definitely. Yeah, I used to tune every morning. We made a joke about Jeremy, and they banned me. Ah, man. Well, Jeremy, him and Howard, and I think he got a lot of his stuff about how he kind of is from Howard. Howard was like just the original Debbie Downer to me, having, done talk radio on the Bills for all those years for their drought. How could it not affect you? They're saying they banned you for a joke. What was it? Oh, that's the comment I saw. Something about being banned. And I'm like, geez, I hope I'm not banned. You said earlier in the season, the Seahawks are bad. When they kept on winning, I laughingly called him out on it every week. He was offended. Well, I mean, it's funny. Other than the games, I'd be interested to know what their listenership is. That everybody has to show that when you're on YouTube or X. You can see how many people are listening in. And of course, we've got, I've got 22 guys here, and I know some of these guys get hundreds, but I very much appreciate you guys being here because I know a lot of you, and it's a blast talking with you. But yeah, I just I don't care for their morning show anymore. I don't think it's just a lot of attacks I see. And we do attacks, but we also have to look at the good also. It can't always be about worrying. Billy the Buffalo in the house. Good evening, fellows Bills fan. Love the show. Go Bills from Jason Bush. The Buffalo's the city of good neighbors. And, that's so obvious when walking around that stadium and even the people taking tickets and swiping, everybody is just like really happy because everybody is it's just the coolest place on the planet. And especially if you're like, how can it be that when you're walking around in the snow? Dudes, that is what makes it so cool. The snow. We did Salen's hot dogs on the same grill after the game. And of course, after the game, we hung out in the stands for a while, but then we had passes to go down on the field. Many of you probably saw my sort of quick takes on the game from the field. Regrettably, the phone was about juiced, and we had done a lot of live stuff in the morning. And like a fool, I did not recharge it or have a way to recharge it. But yes, we got out on the stadium, out on the field, and I just walked around, kind of walked the path that Josh Allen took on his 43-yard run. We're actually at that end of the stadium, which on the broadcast would be the left end. So that was the same end that Benford scored into. And it's amazing how big and how small a field can appear to be at the same time. Yeah, well, GR, about banning you for jokes, get a thicker skin. And, and they have to understand that there's so many content creators out that there's just an audience out there. The audience is finite. And, what certain people want and don't want, I think people like maybe to try to cause more trouble or get fans riled up on their shows. Or the point is there's just more choice now. Paul Chandler's with us. Go Bills. Indeed. And I'm trying to get caught up with these comments here a little bit. Why would you worry? We got 17. That's kind of right, Dominic. And I actually, you just had that feeling from beginning of the second half and even the first. I mean, the fact that they got down there and almost scored essentially twice on the Bengals, both of which never happened because of Cook's fumbles. I mean, the one, he was right next to the pylon. The other, of course, he was going in and then fumble going in. And, of course, you wouldn't be able to count 2 touchdowns on one drive, obviously. But the fact that they went and scored once and it called back for an illegal motion or illegal formation or whatever it was, and then went in and did it again, I think that kind of made me feel a certain way about how they would fare. And it actually turned out to be that. I'm not sure where this one came from. My lovely family gets me most of these items, but I can ask. Could certainly ask. I need to get the wife on the show sometime. Looking forward to Sunday. Want to see how the defense plays. Was sick with the defense until the pick 6. Well, and this is something else I'm going to talk about a little bit. But in the Bills' course of getting to and winning a Super Bowl, and how you might think that could occur, what would be the actual steps to that going down? I mean, for example, is it all about Bills getting a number 1 seed in the playoffs and hosting every game until you get to the Super Bowl? Or is it, the other extreme that they do the New York Giants thing from the 2007 team, which in now 2008, January, was on the road for 3 rounds of the playoffs and got to the Super Bowl, where then they beat the undefeated Brady Patriots at that point. And that was the helmet catch game, if you recall. Amazing game. But I believe it's hard to say to me. I mean, I heard it proposed that, even if the Patriots are going to win the division, let's not have it where they beat the Bills there on Sunday. But I think this is going to be a good test for the Bills. But my goodness, look at the test they just had with that passing game. And I'm sorry, Drake May is not Joe Burrow. And I just think we're going to see the Bills will probably do rope-a-dope again in the first half. They'll feel out what their opponent, the Patriots in this case, are trying to do, and even allow that team to kind of get the feeling that, oh, yeah, this is our game plan. This is going to work. This is going to work. And get them, feeling that way. And then McDermott now in 2 weeks in a row defensively has lowered the boom on the opposing offense after halftime. I mean, they were down 7-3 to the Steelers last week. And then, came back putting a rushing record on them by the time the game was over, and what the Bills did in the second half to stop things. You go look at the possessions in the second half versus the first half this past Sunday. You had what? Punt, interception, touchdown, interception, touchdown. But I just believe that could be either way. Do the Bills end up going on the road and win these playoff games, or is it a matter of that somehow they're going to get the home field advantage? And we can talk about the tiebreakers that are involved too. I'll get to my list of things over here. It was pretty cool seeing the Ralph at the game on Sunday. Amazing comeback win. Time to take down those Pats. Indeed. And this team just McDermott's talking about the toughness aspect, and I think toughness, yes, can be described as, the guy doesn't get injured easily. He's tough. Boy, he got hit like that and he got right up. He's tough. But I think I think it's more of a mental and an emotional toughness that is talked about, where I think, and again, when I talk about these testing modes, these failure modes that you're testing for as a team, and understanding, I mean, the lesson from this past game versus Joe Burrow. What a great outing for the defense to be able to go and try to pull off what I think they're trying to do, which is this rope-a-dope business of allowing a team in the first half. Not allowing, maybe that's not the word. Maybe just playing more of a base set on defense, to where now you've got a measurable metric against which you can see what the offense is doing to you on the other side of the ball. So, perhaps it's that. I don't know, but it just seems as though the Bills are turning it on in the second half against some of these teams. And then the other thing you want to think about with the Bills just going for the rest of the season here is when you do consider the losses. And I think, Miami is the oddball one because it was, basically a 17-point loss. And none of the other losses were on that level. And then when you especially think about the most recent losses, which were, of course, to the Patriots and then to the Texans, which are by 4 points and by 3 points. And really, there was a chance at the end of both of those games for it to happen for the Bills. Yeah, it just seems to me that this Bills team has the capability of and maturity to be able to allow this hive mind business to work and getting the team to where it's basically prepared for anything because it knows that the time is coming where the winning has to just continue. And this has been, a thing with the Bills actually for years. They're what now? 28-4 in December since 2020 or whatever it was, is the stat. And it's getting to that time of year where, the testing is done, and now it's time to actually win these games and, perhaps even just like they ended up winning the game Sunday and somewhat at the last minute. I know it felt more like that in the broadcast than it did being there. That's again that time warp business. But apply that to like finishing the season. And, can they beat any of these teams? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the two that are wearing green that they have to face, it might be the two worst looking of the bunch. I mean, the Eagles and Jalen Hurts was terrible last night versus the Chargers. 4 interceptions and throws a pick in overtime trying to go down and get a field goal. And I think they were already in range to tie it, but then threw a bad interception down, inside the 5 and game over, of course, because they had the ball second. So you've got them and the Jets in the green. That's what I was referring to. You've got the Patriots, and, I know the 11-2 record or whatever it is, it's the same thing really with Denver to an extent. And let's see, the Chicago Bears are probably a good example. Jacksonville, something of an example. What the hell am I talking about? I'm talking about teams that played a last place schedule this season, which is based on your result from last season. And what does that mean? Well, yeah, the Bills and the rest of the AFC East played the NFC South. Those 4 teams: New Orleans, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, and the Panthers. But they also play teams from certain divisions. This is why the Bills have played the Chiefs and will play them again this next season in the new stadium, hosting them there for all these years, because it's between having one division playing another, because every division plays another division in your same conference, and then every division plays another division in the other conference, the NFC in this case. And then you play other teams and you play them in the order that they finish, which is why the Bills and the Chiefs always being first place in their division up until this season, the both of them essentially have always played each other and have always played other good teams, because the first place team is playing the first place team. And not to put too fine a point on it, but the Patriots have not played first place clubs. The Bills are getting the Eagles, the Patriots, right? Bills had to play the Eagles. Patriots play the Giants, who just fired Dable or whatever. They're playing a last place schedule. So it does not scare me as much. And I am not as impressed with Drake May. I don't think he's anywhere. Well, let me put it this way. With what the Bills just faced with Joe Burrow the other day and the effectiveness of how that team played, and it's like, okay, that was a harder test. Drake May is not going to put on, he's not going to be able to do that. And the Bills are so ready for it now. And they'll try. It might look like it early on, but I'm confident the Bills can win that game. Then the Cleveland game, and I'm actually almost considering going to that because The tickets are not that much, and it's like about a 3.5, 4-hour drive max from here. And but I think the Bills should win that game. And then the Philadelphia Eagles, who they'll host in the 425 slot in the penultimate game, the last game before the last game, they're not looking good. And they've lost now. They lost on Black Friday to Chicago, and then they just got beat by the Chargers with a quarterback with a busted hand that had surgery a week ago. Fascinating. And then, of course, the Bills will finish with the Jets at the Ralph, which is, of course, that's the very last game in that stadium. And indeed, the Jets were the very first game, regular season game now, in that stadium, which I was at, actually, as a lad. But I believe the Bills can win all 4 of these football games. And then it's a case of what happens with the Patriots. But and the tiebreakers are they're head to head, but the Bills would only be able to there is no head to head. The Bills would have to win in order for it to be a tie. So you immediately go to the second tiebreaker. And that would be if that's their division record. And in that case, the Bills would end up 4-2 if they win these 2 division games they have remaining. But the Patriots would have to lose to Miami, and then or it would, and if that's the case, that would tie them. If they lose to both Miami and the Jets, which probably isn't likely, and it's probably more likely they'll win both those games, although the Miami Dolphins are a different football team right now. If you haven't noticed, they've just somehow gotten good. And I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. And we might be thanking them for what they pull off in terms of playing the Patriots when they get to them. I don't know what game that is. Of course, it's one of the last 3. But I do believe the Dolphins have a chance of beating them. Then if that's the case, you go to the next tiebreaker. If the Patriots were to lose both to Miami and the Jets, and the Bills went out, that's a win scenario for them. And then the next tiebreaker is the best one-loss record in common games. And I haven't worked out what that is because I was just hearing these earlier before the podcast started. But that's something you can go on and even check the playoff machines or whatever. But if you, I think at this point, the Bills need to basically go 2-2 at worst to get to 11 wins. If they get to 11 wins, they're getting in the playoffs for certain. They may well get in at 10, but I believe right now they are actually, let's just look it up here and we'll look at a couple things concerning that. But I think they're tied right now with the Chargers. They're both 9-4. And here's a playoff picture right here. The Texans are the 7 seed at this moment. The Bills are the 6 seed, and that's on the strength of the Chargers win last night in their game with Philadelphia. And then we have the Steelers at 4 with that division lead. Jaguars at 3 with their division lead. Patriots are at 2 with their division lead, and the Broncos at 1. And when you think about the Bills having to face some of these playoff teams, I've been asked, what do you think about them playing this team or that team? We know there's energies in this game and in this league. I've talked about these. They transcend time, and it's very, very strange. For example, winning streaks that get accomplished, or like the Bills not being able to win since 2003 down in Houston. But I believe that going to play either Houston might be a thing, but if you have the Chiefs out of it, I think the Bills, there's something about the Bills and the Chiefs in the playoffs. I think in one sense you'd like to see it happen, to see the Bills finally win, but in another sense, it looks like it's shaping up to where if it goes like this and you're looking at these teams and playing the quarterback, CJ Stroud, and then you've got Herman, but you don't know how his hand is going to stand out. Then Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, who scares you there? This is what I'm kind of saying. Who scares you? So I believe that the Bills would be in a position to do well in these playoffs, even going on the road. You've got Josh Allen, and the way this team has focused in and won these last two games just says a bunch to me about where they could be headed. And amazingly, that's what Nick Wright is basically thinking of them now. Let's get back to the comments here. I want to see where I left off. We had about here. Let's see. Get farther down here. Why was Josh able to scramble the way he was? Because the Patriots and Finns and Texas, all of them pretty much played us the same way. Want to see what they have to counter that style of defense. Well, one of the points I heard about it's the Bills' sets and James Cook's ability to run. When the Bills are running tight sets, that is, you don't have spacing on receivers, and you might be running 13 personnel even with three tight ends, but it's a tight alignment. Well, the defense is naturally a little tighter to that. And if those defenses are in there like that, they're able to get into those cutback lanes, and especially zone runs, far easier than if they are spread out. But the Bills, if they, could run a little play action like they did to start the game, out to Dawson Knox for 32 yards, I mean that's what you need to do. And I think we even saw this, I've talked about Jackson Hawes a lot on this podcast, that Jackson Hawes, to me, can be another Kelsey style of tight end. He's a great blocker, but he chipped and then just trotted into the end zone, made himself available to Josh Allen, scored the winning touchdown. I mean, that is going to be the power of this, and especially if it's unleashed on teams now where the Bills are going to run a lot more play action and RPOs. So it gives the choice. It makes defenders commit. And Josh is, making good choices. And I believe, though, it's December. It's different football. And I think this is what we're going to see out of the Bills, and a lot more play action and then defenses, adjusting even at halftime and just putting a stop to whatever they're seeing. And what teams really, really scare you? Maybe the Texans, who seem to be a sure get in. It looks pretty tough for the Chiefs to get in, or the Ravens, for that matter. Well, maybe the snow has a lot to do with it. It was slippery out there. Also, I didn't see the Bengals spy on how other teams did to us. If teams are smart, they'd spy on all game. He can run. Exactly. But everything, of course, you do on a football field in, asserting yourself here is going to leave another weakness there. And if the Bills are able to adjust to those things, and and be able to, if they are going to spy Allen, there's going to be somebody open. And is it like a Jackson Haas? I think it's, the tight end group that was kind of really discovered the other day because, of course, Cincinnati had been so worst in the league by like 250 some yards at defending tight ends. And so if the Bills want to unleash this tight end business again, if a team steps on that, then something else is going to be open. And that's where they need to get some people back. Let's face it, and knock on wood if I could find it, but when Joshua Palmer is back in the lineup, that's going to make a difference to this offense. And as far as Josh Allen, you're just getting, this version of him that comes out, in the winter when we get to it. And he's playing, 4 more cold weather games, including the one we just played the other day. They're all outdoors and they're all in the Northeast. New England, Cleveland, then 2 back home to finish the season. The Bengals got way too cute with that pass over the defender who got the pick 6. They were marching down the field and got too cute on that one. And, he was just trying to do, like this touch throw just behind Benford. And Benford just, it was amazing. I saw it happen. It was almost like he knew it was coming. I mean, he just anticipated it so well. And this is, again, when I talk about this hive mind, it wasn't what he was supposed to be doing, that technique, but what he did resulted in a touchdown for the Bills. And it was just utterly amazing. And then you have Josh Allen just getting free, and there's just it's more than just a big guy running. There's like a presence. And I think that is kind of what this team is trying to learn to assert. It's not a scheme thing so much. It's an attitude, which I've talked a lot about on this podcast. And it's just the idea that you've handled all this and you've seen it all before. But indeed, we won. It was great. But let's be honest, we got outplayed. Without Josh putting on the superhero cape, we were finished. Well, without the Bengals having Joe Burrow, they didn't have a chance. I mean, I don't agree with these comments that, I mean, it's the same thing with them. It's the same thing with a lot of teams with a good quarterback. And, outplayed. I don't know. Their offense, the Bengals, that is, was successful in the first part of the game. But the Bills locked that down in the second half. And in terms of being able to move the ball, I mean, the Bills had more and bigger plays, and they were able to run the football where Cincinnati was not. I don't agree with this at all. Sorry. For us to win it all, Josh has to throw caution to the wind. Well, I don't know if I call it so much caution to the wind, but the comparison of what you saw, what I saw the other day on that football field. Let me just get a quick drink here. I don't take breaks, so I get a drink here once in a while. This is actually Western New York water. Josh has to throw caution to the wind. I don't actually see it exactly like that. What I see is the difference between these two quarterbacks that we saw Sunday, like I was just going to mention. And the difference is this, is that Joe Burrow is an excellent, precise, almost machine-like technician. I mean, he's a technician. I mean, The throws are right in the right spot. He's very, very accurate. That's what right spot means. He's anticipatory for sure. I mean, he's got great receivers. I mean, they've got what, 90 million or whatever, 80 million invested in 2 receivers. You know, they should be really good. But he's a technician. Josh Allen is an artist. Josh Allen is an artist. That's my view of it. He's at his best when he's out there creating. It's not to say that he's not as good a quarterback because he's not an anticipatory style thrower. It's not that. It's the fact that he's an artist. It's about creation on the football field. And he's just, I don't know. He wasn't huge as a kid. I mean, we know that he grew a lot, you know, when he was a later teen and so forth, and into his size, which he's like, you know, still matured into now. But maybe it was like the kid that just, you know, thought about being great, but and then just becomes this artist, and then you have this body, this paintbrush, you know, to be able to do stuff with on this canvas, which is the field, which was so cool walking around the field the other night. It was just awesome. I mean, just in the scale of it also. But I just think that Josh Allen won't be denied this season. I think it's got to something. Glad you weren't worried. I was freaking out. Up the irons in the house. You know, I know it seemed like that with the time, and then there was also listening to the freaking announcers, which we weren't doing, of course, and just really watching the game. Yeah, we're not going too far playing defense like that. Happy for the win, but we just don't get that pick six. We're going to lose. If it could have gone either way. Well, I don't know, but you see, that's what happened, though. That's part of the game. The game, part of the game is turnovers. It's like saying that one play. Well, there's so many, you know, little after effects of so many plays. If James Cook, you know, doesn't lose that ball going into the end zone, you know, the complexion of the game is completely different also. I think, and in terms of, you know, the defense, I mean, it was Joe Burrow. We'll see. We'll see. But I think, you know, the Bills locked that down pretty well. And now they get to go to the Patriots Sunday and settle that score. Because this was a score to settle this past Sunday for sure. And when the Patriots came in and essentially what was to ruin the Bills' homecoming with the new uniforms, daffy as they are, the rivalry uniforms, not the new ones, but, you know, the alternate rivalries. You know, the Bills got a score to settle with those guys. Tops never stops mopping the floor. Tops is a great thing. The Bills win was good. Casey losing later that night was better. I listened to Casey Sports Radio show after the game, and most everyone was calling for Reed to get fired. One caller told everyone to relax. Well, you know, I mean, they've been there a lot, and if you're going to talk about there being a core to a team, a core of people to a team, even though the team is supposedly completely different each year, that core kind of stays the same. And listen, hive mind has got to exist in other teams. Why, you know, not just the Bills. You know, they've won the damn thing. They've been there a lot. You know, they might be, you know, tired. They've played an extra, you know, compared to teams that don't go to the playoffs, they've played essentially an extra season of football since like 2019 or 2020 than other teams. Bills to an extent too haven't gone to the playoffs. I mean, you have 3 playoff games or even 4 perhaps, but just call it 3 over the course of 5 years, 6 years, it's 15, 18 games. That's a season, extra season. So it might be a case of where the Chiefs are just like, you know, been there, done that. We got the T-shirt. I don't know, but definitely they don't look of contention. And you can't win every game or Super Bowl. He was chill. Yeah, well, they've been there. They've done that. Like I said, we don't have a statement win. Our defense only shut down the Jets. That doesn't count. What do you mean by a statement win? I mean, the first game out of the box was a statement win. And the Bills came out and broke the Ravens, which kind of did all right, but then you could see how badly broken they were when they got to the Chiefs of all teams, beat them. And then we started to think the Chiefs were great, but it was them and then the Titans and then what? The Commanders that they played. And okay, now the Chiefs have gone 3-0 since their tough start. They're back. Well, not really. So I think the Ravens was a statement game. Last week against Pittsburgh was a statement game. Yeah, they beat Tampa Bay. I mean, you got to remember what people were thinking about the Bills at that point. But again, here we are in December with this mindset of the Bills that, of course, now it's time to get on with it. Now it's time to actually go win. And after these years of struggling through it with these playoff exits, it almost kind of looks like it's lining up for them a bit this year. And if you're talking about, Paul, a statement win on defense, you know, they miss Michael Hoyt. I'm glad they've got Shaq Thompson playing for sure. And maybe keep that going because Bernard Bernard's not that spot. Maybe he's like the will linebacker, but anyway, 49 to Carolina. One was a statement win. No, Cook went bonkers, rushing for over 200 yards. Didn't have crazy numbers, but didn't need to go crazy when Cook was cooking. And yeah, I agree with that. And then listen, I mean, Carolina beat the Rams, the current number 1 seed in the NFL, like a week ago. So Carolina's not a bad team. That was actually a good win. Also, if we fire McDumbass, we're going to replace him with nobody available, so we might need to chill on McDumbass. Well, let's not call him quite that anymore. I went as far as McGlasses, I think, but he's gotten rid of those now too. But, he coached with some stones Sunday. He went for things on 4th down, 4 times, and they made 3 of them. The one was the incomplete pass. Jesus, I thought that was a fumble down from where we were. That was at the far end with the Bills coming towards us, and I thought it was scooped up and taken for the score. But then realized that, it was an incomplete pass. But, hey, he and then, the defensive calls the adjustments were great. I mean, I think he's taking some chances more, both on offense and defense, with the 4th down attempts and with making changes on defense that are allowing them just to have night and day first and second halves. It's not been the only time these last 2 games that's happened. And it's my rope-a-dope theory where I just believe that it's like Muhammad Ali used to let his opponents come out and start, you know, playing their game. He's kind of staying out of their way and so forth, but not really attacking, but almost being sort of vanilla and allowing his opponent to sort of execute that opponent's game plan. Oh, this is what he wants to do. And once you get a hold of that, but not only figure out what it is that they want to do, but let them get the impression that what they want to do is going to be successful all fight or, all game. And I think the Bills do that to an extent, especially more recently. I think the team's definitely developed and grown. I think maybe that's one of the marks of these Bills teams in this era is that they're together to start, but they continue to coalesce as they get further into the season. And again, this hive mind business, perhaps that's part of it, but where they are experiencing this uptick that happens every December, and they're going to go out and start just, beating teams, but not only beating them from the get-go, but almost letting that team feel a little confident and then crushing their spirit. I mean, the Bills ended up, they were behind by 2 scores and ended up ahead by 2 scores the other day. And you could say, well, if it wasn't for that, well, but those things happen. Those are part of the game. So, and again, if it doesn't happen for the other team, it's the same thing. I think Bean is going to get fired after this season. If the Bills, and I think you're going to probably continue that, but I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about that. If the Bills miss the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised if Bean and McDermott get canned. Well, you can. That's kind of a negative feel on it, but I don't know. I just have a feeling it's a little bit different this season. Maybe not, but the Bills seem to be demonstrating something here. Maybe they have it just against the AFC North. I don't know. They got one more game with them, and we'll see how McDermott is ready to put up his dukes against Vrabel here this Sunday. It'll be a test of toughness. The Bills were close in that game last time, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I said these same words before this one. What was your first impression on the new stadium as you were walking by? Oh, well, I've been watching the new stadium kind of come together. Like a lot will have it on in the background, over the months since it's being built. Last February, they're putting big steel in place for these big V's that actually support the canopy, goes around, and a bunch of them around the entire stadium. But they've just got it mostly clad now, and it's and being there on the ground with it. I've been there a couple times before, but now the exterior cladding is largely done. If you've seen the video, and we probably could find that here, but I should have had that ready. But we'll get to it next time. But it's coming together. But the impression is it's amazing. It's huge, and as huge as it is, the Ralph, the current stadium right now, the field level is 50 feet beneath grade. So grade just being the relative level of the ground all around. It's 50 feet beneath. In the new stadium, which is far taller, it is 35 feet beneath. This stadium on the inside is going to be like a, I don't know, like a deep bowl. It's completely surrounded. It will be the loudest place on the planet. I mean, you could just see with how enthused Bills Mafia has been at the Ralph, and the stadium upper decks are like kind of out like this, where the ends are open. Now you're kind of like bringing all this stuff kind of closer and surrounding it and covering it with metal to where it's like a musical instrument. It's going to be louder than shit in there. And the stadium itself is beautiful. The design is gorgeous. I mean, it's really fabulous. It's not like, I know SoFi has got this wild shape from overhead. This is, that's like a building with a stadium in it. This is a stadium, and it looks like the modern day Colosseum in Rome. Frankly, I mean, it's fabulous. It's huge, deep. I haven't gotten inside it at all, of course, but just being there and seeing it, and it's beautiful. And of course, it's covered with metal cladding that has holes in it to help create boundary layer turbulence to prevent it from being windy down on the field, which that will be the case. Even on a windy day, there's not going to be anything at the bottom of that stadium. And what those are actually the Bills shape, this shape here of the swoosh or the stripe on the buffalo. Each one of those cutouts is that shape, and there are hundreds of thousands. They're about that size also, about the size that would come right off a helmet. And yeah, the stadium is beautiful, man. It's going to be awesome. All right, where are we here in our comments? I got us beating the Texans next time. Oh, we missed Paul Chandler's comment. I think we got ahead of ourselves a little bit. I agree with that. It's tough to beat a team twice in one season, as the Bills have experienced. StreamYard has to get better to where I can see exactly where we left off. With this ton of comments now. I think we're getting there. Now we got to that one. It doesn't let me change by clicking. Okay, I've got to. So we saw that. Panthers aren't the Texans. They're not on the level. They're not on our level. Sometimes, well, all the time, I feel like they play too laid back when they need to be on the go. Well, we'll see. It's December now. It's a long, long season, and they've gotten themselves into position and played pretty much, with the exception of the division games they've lost, like they would have in other seasons. Losing those two division games to the Dolphins and to the Patriots themselves have put them in the position of not being in front of the division, because the Patriots are, playing a last place schedule. That's why they have these wins. The competition hasn't been the same. I mean, there's two or three different games that are very different. Plays too laid back. Yeah, I got what you were saying there. Anyone else notice they stopped saying that garbage everyone eats slogan? Post-conference interviews or players or coach don't say it anymore. It got stale and old real quick this year. Well, everyone isn't eating. It's actually rounding out, though, to, where they're, have a tight end game, which I like seeing. I want to see Jackson Hawes involved. A little more with the wideouts. Josh Palmer will help. Shakir is great, but Palmer will be a help. And, and I see him throwing more to Gabe Davis and Tyrell Shavers. And, I think everybody's still eating, but yeah, maybe they ran out of T-shirts. I feel like the Bills this year are the bad news bears out there, a bunch of misfits somehow winning games. Well, I don't know how much of a bunch of misfits they actually are. They're, they've got a couple guys they wish they had on the defense. Ed Oliver might come back, but the bad news bears part of it, it's I think we could safely say if the Bills continue their December ways and win out or, go at least, let's say 3-1 on the way out of this season, there's nobody's going to want to play them. They're not going to want. You're not going to want to play the Bills if you're any of these other teams, and you're not going to want to have them come into your house. So we'll see. McDermott once said that he likes the control he has over the team when it's a road game as compared to a home game. Now, of course, the road hasn't been friendly, but they've turned the ball over on the road a lot. They've played some good football. It's been turnovers. And of course, there's, worry with that. But I just believe that if they have to go through the playoffs as a wild card, and of course, you're not hosting any games, you're going away for the wild card, you're going away for the divisional, you're going away for the conference championship. Unless a lower wild card actually gets there with you. There's 6 right now. We'll see. Let's continue here with comments. I think they have a different play style than the one they've been showing us, and that's the only thing I can honestly think of. Well, there's a thing to that, right? I mean, there's so much film, and even anybody can get their hands on the film and see exactly what teams are trying to do. The Bills ran a lot more gap runs than zone the other day, maybe to throw them a curve because it's been more zone than gap, or maybe because the Bills saw something in their defense. But I just think different looks that you can put out now as you go through these games to try to confuse what you're actually trying to accomplish when you get to the playoffs. And that's just a matter of how close and good a team is and how well it can take the coaching to actually pull that stuff off. And understanding, if you're Joe Brady, you've got to understand that Josh Allen is an artist, and Josh needs to be able to have a situation where he can go out and create if he needs to, which is defined as having receivers that, and he had open receivers the other day, it was the interesting thing. We noticed that was a problem with the Bills for a while, but when you start running play action and you've got all your tight ends employed, and you're doing tight alignments if you're running tight ends, even if you're, maybe splitting out Dawson or Dalton Kincaid a little bit, but running play action on that where there's the worry that you're running Cook because you've got the blocking surface there to accomplish that, whether you're running a zone or a gap run concept, you still have the ability to have guys chip as they were doing in this game, and then stepping out and catching a ball like Jackson Hawes catching that touchdown pass. I honestly think Allen completely overtaken McDermott and wanting to go for it on 4th downs. If you watch the game, the first 4th down try, Allen wanted to go for it, McDermott did not. Absolutely, and you're going to want that. What is Josh Allen going to say? I don't think there's anything he thinks he can't accomplish, and that's probably true. And in that particular situation on 4th, which is the very first one, if even if McDermott makes that call, it's earlier in the game, you don't want to lose any momentum of not getting any points, which is maybe something he thought about. But on the other hand, he did go for it on 4 other occasions. And there was just the one where he had the incomplete pass that got knocked down or his arm was hit. That was in the far end for me. Let's continue here. Allen raises his hands like, come on, coach. And then he won that battle and won all the rest of them on Sunday. Well, I think they probably talked about them, but and I don't think it's so much a matter of winning. I think it's just McDermott's being more aggressive, and we give everybody on the team some kind of credit or room for them to go through and improve as they go through, except for McDermott. McDermott, has to be always perfect from the start. And let's face it, the coaches can grow also. Now, I've accused him of, not having as much attitude on the sideline, but we're seeing more of it now. And it's interesting. I don't know. I have it on good authority that he watches every one of my shows. I don't know how he fits them in, but I think he listened on the business of the attitude. So they better not get swept, all I know. Yeah, well, we'll see. I think that the Patriots have us a little bit convinced because of some of the teams they've been playing. Well, we shall see, though. We shall see. Because as the Swami once said, Boomer, Chris Berman, that's why they play the games. You aren't scared of the Browns offense now that Sanders is a quarterback? They're a different team with him back there. They could spoil the Bills' next game after the Pats game. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. And that Jim Schwartz defense is great. You've got Myles Garrett back there. Good test for the Bills. Hopefully. That's actually a game I could probably think about actually getting to. Yeah, we'll see. But I think Sean McDermott, if he has going on what he wants in his secondary, he could do a lot to confuse Sanders. The only questions being, Taron Johnson. I don't know the correct pronunciation. I apologize for that. I think it's Teron. Has had some rough times this season. I think, some people are calling a little bit of regression. But, people were talking about Christian Benford like that in the early part of the season. And then now we see Benford coming on. I just think we have to give it the opportunity with some of these guys that they can really turn it on as it gets towards the end of the season. And of course, Teron Johnson has been there as long as Josh Allen, essentially. So we'll see. It was a good test against a passing team this past Sunday. Now the Bills going to Foxborough, going to Gillette. I think they've got it circled, guys. If the Bills face Houston early in the playoffs, that could be a problem. Yeah, I think about that for sure. I'd have to think, though, that when there's such an extreme outcome in a game, such as the pass rush situation, that one thing you can be sure of in a playoff game, the Bills are not going to let that happen. They're going to have something to counter that. So it was that extreme. McDumbass has a terrible record against rookie quarterbacks, never blitzes them. All rookies and second-year quarterbacks smoke us. You guys and your sweeping generalizations. That game was not affected by the snow. The way the NFL was acting about it. Let's be real. We were talking about Buffalo, that weak-ass snow game. That's a regular day in Western New York in December. Well, the game was not necessarily affected by the falling snow, but the accumulated snow. And I walked down this stuff after the game, and it was a different surface. I could definitely see where it would have some effect. I mean, you say the way the NFL was acting about how the game was affected by snow. Who's the NFL? I get what you're saying, though. I mean, it is a regular day, and yeah, it was nice. It was beautiful. It was like a snow globe in there. It certainly wasn't this depth of snow like you had in that game versus the Colts, where LaShawn McCoy, dressed in the red uniforms, scored in overtime, plodding his way through, it's like six inches on the ground. I don't mean to sound like that, but I just don't trust the defense. If they would have been playing like they played the second half of Pittsburgh in the last 5 minutes of Sunday, maybe I would trust it. But I think some of the point is that that's exactly what they don't do, because they, like I'm calling it, this rope-a-dope tactic to allow an opposing offense to get a feeling of what they want to do, that they can do it, that it's going to work out, and let them get comfortable kind of doing it a bit, and then making the adjustment, not immediately on the sideline for the second series. But I think there's something about lulling an opposing offensive coordinator into the thought that, this is what I'm going to do because it's been working so well. And the Bills dropped the hammer on it. And they started blitzing more. And, I've already heard in the conversation here that, well, if this play hadn't happened and if that hadn't happened, well, again, those plays did happen. They're all part of the game. And the takeaways is something the Bills have prided themselves on in past seasons, and especially some in the playoffs. And to see it turning on now, again, is this hive mind coming together now? We're at the point now where there's, basically at most 8 games, maybe 7 if you're a division, if you have the bye. But the teams have 4 more regular season games, and then you'd have wild card, divisional, AFC championship, and Super Bowl. You've got 8 more games to play. And they've been kind of looking at this season in sort of eights. They started out 4-0, then went 4-4, and now are trying to work on going 4-0 again, or 5-0. But, we'll see. And this is a different week, on this defense there, but you're definitely seeing some things you can start to trust a little bit more. And guys are getting more reps. This is the thing. These reps that they've been getting over this period, it does start to add up, and it's helpful, especially when you have a lot of younger guys. Josh made the call to go, and I think the guys just had to go for the ride. Bills 31, Pats 28. Go Bills. Jason Bush, I hope that is the case. Did we beat the Jets when the Ralph first opened? Yes. The final score was 9-7 on the strength of 3 John Leipold field goals. But don't think it was close. It was actually a garbage time touchdown. Well, garbage time when it's just a 1-score game after the touchdown is not much, but a very late touchdown. And then the Bills had run the ball very well with O.J. Simpson that day. So, but yes, the Bills won 9-7 in the very first regular season game at the Ralph, 30 September 1973. We're going to win this game against New England. Good to see you, Ralph. Hey, JPS, thanks so much. And yes, I kind of feel that too. I think the Bills know that they just lost to these guys by 4 points, and it was just an end-of-game thing, and the defense needing to get done what it needed, and it not happening in that one. And, it's also early. It was an earlier season game, and it's a long marathon. And I think the Bills are at the point where they're getting ready to turn on now. And actually look like they have in the last 2 games. Hoping we get in position to rest everyone versus the Jets last game. Get Mitchie Biscuits some playing time. I don't see that happening. I actually believe the Bills are going to need to win that game. And, who knows? If you don't want to lose the division to the Patriots at their place, I don't think the Bills will allow that. But if the other things that need to happen, and, what would need to happen for the Bills to win the division? Well, they they can't win it head to head, because if they obviously need to beat the Patriots, so then that would be a split. So you go to the next tiebreaker. If the Patriots lose to Miami, which I think is a possibility, then that would, now you're talking about a division record, and that would leave them the same also, but they'd have to lose to both Miami and the Jets for the Bills to win by division record if Buffalo beats them this Sunday. So the first scenario is impossible. The second one is not probable, especially with the Patriots losing to both those teams. But you never know. You never know. The Jets, of course, is more of a thought, but Miami has looked very good lately. But then after that, it's been the best one-loss record in common games. But we're still, working through those common games, and you could go through the iterations of what would have to happen. But that's that next tiebreaker. So, you can, perhaps assume that, they're going to be a wild card. Stephen, when you first met your wife, was she a Bills fan? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah, lived actually closer to Buffalo than me, right in Kenmore, if you're familiar with the area. The three AFC offenses that scare me the most, Cincinnati, Baltimore, and KC, probably won't make the playoffs. Don't think it will be mandatory to have three superb games by Allen to run the table in the playoffs. And I agree with that. I think the Bills have demonstrated that they can have different kinds of games and find success. The thing that interests me, though, just even a bit more, is twice now this ability to win late. And they've won late in completely different ways. The very first game of the season and the most recent game of the season. And it's like when Josh is facing those quarterbacks, except for Mahomes when it's in the playoffs, he's and even against Mahomes, he's been great. It's just that the team has let him down, if you want to say it like that, in some other way. But certainly it's a case of he's great against those guys. And then I saw the point earlier, of course, where McDermott, isn't great against lesser quarterbacks. And and Davis Mills was an example of that the other week. But we'll see. He's still hamstrung on defense, but some people coming back, and now you've got TJ Sanders playing the end more, which has been interesting, I guess. Darnell Savage, they just signed him, which is a player the Bills have been looking at since the draft, and you could see him get perhaps some work at slot corner, which is where it's been a little bit tough with Johnson, of course. I agree with that in the stadiums on the teams you are worried about facing, because you ask yourself, are you worried about Bo Nix or Justin Herbert? I mean, C.J. Stroud, and who else would you even be talking about? Aaron Rodgers, they've beaten him. And Drake May, and you're going to see what Drake May has this weekend. I hear the new stadium's real grass will be heated, and any falling snow won't be an issue. Can you confirm this? Well, it won't be heated enough to be able to melt snow as it falls. It will be heated enough to not freeze, and that's the idea of it. They'll always have it with enough warmth for it not to freeze. But the other point of it is that I don't know. I guess the other day in the snow globe sort of thing, the snow was coming sort of straight down. So if you look at the stadium from directly overhead, you can see what will get hit. And certainly the new stadium has a canopy over 64% of the crowd, but there's a center section there that is over the field if you're looking straight up and down. So straight up and down snow will fall there. But unlike the Ralph, which is so wide open with the open ends and the big upper decks, which are kind of like wind vanes funneling it in, instead, this new stadium will just have such no wind at the bottom that that won't even be an effect at all. And the whole design of it is to create turbulence above the field. So, but it's also smaller. So being smaller than the opening at the Ralph, if snow's coming at an angle, it'll actually have less of a fetch to actually get into it. And for example, for you football guys, think of college football with the wide hash marks and kicking a field goal from up close. Those goalposts aren't that wide. They're actually turned, and now they're not as all wide. And that's sort of the same idea with the snow hitting the field in the new place. Tyrod's going to do magic for us and beat the Pats. Listen, it's a division game. That's the thing. Division games are different. And it's hard to beat a team twice in a season. I think us playing on the road in the playoffs might work out for us. I could just kind of see that. I think I don't know. Maybe it's not the pressure of not wanting to disappoint the home crowd, but I don't really think it's that. I just think it's the single-mindedness that just gets put into stark relief when they're actually in a hostile environment that they can, try and tame. And, we'll see. That this is another test coming on Sunday to see how that part of it works. Because this will have, and essentially is a playoff game in a sense. I need to sue the Bills because they emotionally scarred me as a kid. And that's why I don't like to say too much. But I don't think I could survive another Super Bowl loss if we make it. Gotta go win, Bills. Yes, absolutely. And if not Josh Allen, who? Right? So again, I'm just little different feeling about it this season here. Are you doing a live session like this Saturday? I want to buy a Ralph Rant shirt. Yes, and yes, I'll probably certainly be doing a pregame on Saturday, not going anywhere this weekend to see the game. So be watching it just like you guys. And so certainly, and I'd like to hear the suggestion. I mean, it's a Saturday. The evenings are maybe tougher for people, but perhaps suggest some times like we could go in the afternoon. I mean, college football, of course, is now done with the championship games and the seeding for the playoffs. So for the most part, we're ready to do that. And then the Ralph Rant shirts. Yes. We'll you've reminded me of something that we have to get going on that for sure. Can you check the weather for Sunday's game for us? Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you asked that. This is easy enough. Oh, interesting. I'm basically in a winter weather advisory myself. But let's go to Foxborough, Massachusetts. Let's see. For the trip in, Saturday, partly sunny with a high near 37 and southwest wind 5 to 7 miles per hour. Saturday night, a chance of snow after 3 a.m. Mostly cloudy with a low around 26. West wind around 6 miles per hour. Chance of precipitation is 30%. Sunday, a chance of snow. Partly sunny with a high near 33. Northwest wind 6 to 9 miles per hour, with gusts as high as 20 miles per hour. Chance of precipitation is 40%. And then Sunday night, partly cloudy with a low around 13. Northwest wind around 9 miles per hour. So it will be probably temperatures dropping as we go through the day. Bill's no stranger to that. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. If the Bills win the Super Bowl, I guarantee they'll build Josh Allen statue at the new stadium whenever he retires. Once the clock hits 0, I'm going downtown. Yeah, absolutely. Certainly. To claim my front row seat at City Hall for the parade. There you go. Does Bernard regain his role when he's healthy? Should he? No. He's just not enough of a downhill guy. We didn't have we need a thumper linebacker in that spot. And that's what you've got in Shaq Thompson. And you've seen the effect of it. I mean, the last 2 weeks with Shaq Thompson out there, the Bills have done very well against the run. I mean, Chase Brown got 62 yards the other day, I think, something of that nature. So no, I don't believe so. Not this season anyway. I mean, we'll see. I got here late. McDermott has college level coordinators, Brady and Babbage. Allen needs pro level staff. Wait a minute here. We need to get that out of there. All right. Well, I mean, listen, McDermott is coordinating the defense. And, whatever's going on out there has been working better because of the fact, I believe, that they're allowing Josh Allen to be an artist on the field. And that's being done in the territory of going for it in fourth downs, of course. But moreover, just letting him actually have the ability to go out and create on the field, having an offense that's set up to do that, where you would think there's options available to him and that it's approached like that, not that there's necessarily even a particular first read. You might have a good idea based on the defense you're seeing, but it's just more about creating on the spot. And I believe that's where he's going to excel as we go through these games and into the playoffs. And I mean, stop and think about it, guys, for a minute. If the Bills look like they're going to make the playoffs, and even if they have to hit the road to do so, and if they go through these playoffs and then get to that AFC Championship game again, and somebody not named Mahomes is across the other side of the field, then and they win that game and get to the Super Bowl, to the Super Bowl. Can you imagine what Josh Allen could be in that? I mean, I can't fathom the depth to which he could become Superman in such a situation. I said this in an earlier video a ways back in the summer and the preseason, but something about the fact that there's so much built up with this Bills team needing to win the Vince. From all the history with it, I mean, even dating back to the fact that it was the Kansas City Chiefs that beat the Buffalo Bills, preventing the Buffalo Bills from being the AFL representative in the first Football World Championship, which later became known as the Super Bowl. Bills were beat pretty good, I think, 31-10, I think, something like that, to not go to the first Super Bowl. So there's just been a buildup, and then the 4 losses, of course, and then the drought that ensued, and now the getting closer to it with this regime of the Bills. sometimes I think we just have to accept that it's going to be this huge thing when it actually does occur. And there's more of a feeling of it this season to me, strangely, even though the Bills are not leading their division. That might even be a key. But let's see if they just keep on winning. Chase Brown hasn't been running very well this year. Last season, he balled out. Did you see him Thanksgiving night versus the Ravens? Sorry, I lost it there for a second. Thanksgiving night, they played the Ravens. Chase Brown was great. No, I see. Oh, the Ravens suck. If Palmer returns, who do you think is a healthy scratch? Coleman or Davis? I don't know. I think they might even find it someplace else on the roster, if that's the case. And it might more likely come out of the defensive backfield, but we'll have to see. But if they're sticking with numbers, I mean, that's a hard question to ask. Both performed well the other day. People would be lined up at the airport if they get to the AFC Championship game and win it to welcome them home for sure. Oh, that's for certain. That will be a mob scene. That will be a mob scene. And then the other thing you got to consider is that the Super Bowl is being played, of all places, in San Francisco. Josh's homeland, essentially. I mean, come on. It's setting up, is that. The flip side of this coin is if Allen never wins a Super Bowl, he will be the Dan Marino of this era. That's true to an extent, except Josh is just, Dan Marino was a great passer of the football, but in terms of what Allen has done with his touchdowns record and so forth, it's a little slightly different league. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that there's something going on with the team that happens in December, and it's happening again, but it's happening in an environment where the normal predators that end up getting you don't seem like they're in the forest. It's all these different ones now, and it's like you've grown up, and I'm not afraid of that shit. Bo Nix, Justin Herbert, C.J. Stroud, Aaron Rodgers, Trevor Lawrence. Who are we missing from we got the South, and I think we might expose the Pats on Sunday. I need us to put a bet on these boys. I really hate the Pats with a passion. They were so irrelevant before Brady came. Well, and that's like the same thing as people, talking about, well, the Patriots are great, but, if the Bills didn't have Josh Allen, they'd suck. Well, if the Patriots didn't have Tom Brady, they might have sucked also, as we found out now, because it's, it's about a quarterback. And, like Josh is, get into these playoffs, start going to some of these places against, these teams that are actually newer to the playoffs, that have succeeded in earning their playoff position by playing a third or fourth place schedule in their divisions. Like we talked about this before, Bills are going to be, tough. Fume drummer, Bills versus Denver, and Denver is going to be a problem in the playoffs. No. You're just, I just don't think you're scared by them. It's again, these teams have played not first place schedules. The Bills and the Chiefs have played first place schedules every season for like the past 5 or 6. I mean, even longer for the Chiefs. We've got a lot of new blood leading divisions here, and some of them with not great records. And furthermore, I mean, they're playing the last place schedules and third place schedules, not first place schedules like the Bills have had to play this season. I have a really good feeling this season for this team. My anger and hatred for McDermott and Bean has gone away. Maybe not so much Bean because of his lack of giving Allen help here at wide receiver. I mean, if you're looking for like, find him his Jamar Chase, he hasn't done that, but I just believe that, and this was the same with the Patriots for years. They brought in receivers that were, I mean, yeah, they brought in Randy Moss. Everybody remembers that, but he was, a little more of an aging free agent, and he just, came to life there because he was so great. But quite frankly, the receiver situation there was never excellent from year after year with the Patriots dynasty I'm talking about. It was more that, hey, if they were on Brady's team, Brady got the ball to him and made him look great. But I think the Bills have some good stuff going on, and that was great confidence building on this game. The Bills are going to be a problem for the Patriots on Sunday. I just have a feeling Buffalo's got this one circled. In a perfect world, we dominate the Pats Sunday, get a win against the Browns and Eagles, and the rest are starters, and still beat the Jets Sunday. Go Bills. Josh is a different animal in the playoffs. Yes, he is, and it's spilled over into this right now. We can see it already getting going. Did you drive to Buffalo from Michigan? No, yeah, definitely drove. Definitely drove. Belt to Ass is an acronym for BTA is an acronym for Belt to Ass. Thank you very much. Other than doing the Ralph Rant, I'm pretty much under a rock here. So it's good to hear these cultural norms, which I should be aware of. Stephen, our windows to win Super Bowls with these players are closing. This offseason, do you see needing to cut Trey White, Hamlin, Rapp? 3 linebackers need to be added. Cut Milano. Rapp, we'd have to see about. Hamlin, has always been just a kind of a replacement level. Trey White's having a pretty good year right now, but I really don't think it's closing. I think one of the things that Bean has tried to do is sort of create a sustainable situation. You got some good offensive linemen in the wings for this team, and your offensive line still is, relatively young and going to be in place for a while. I mean, Josh Palmer is a fine receiver. Just get the shit going where you're not predictable. And maybe Brady's been predictable on purpose. Maybe they're just playing rope-a-dope the entire season, waiting for this time now where they can do what they have to do and actually get excited about it. It's like you can see that you can't just be totally up on top for every game in the flow of a season. It's a long season, and the Bills have had a historical lull these years, and it's always kind of the same. We always freak out, and then they always end up in the playoffs and losing to the Chiefs. So the biggest thing I want to see is the Chiefs not in the playoffs. Crazy to think Tom Brady and Randy Moss never got a ring when Moss went there. Yes, it is. And I believe that was, I don't know if that was the perfect season of theirs or not, the 16-0. Injury update for the Bills. Yes, I can. I heard it today, actually. Well, yesterday, actually, on the Monday press conference. And this is showing for, that's for last week. Week 15. And there's no list out. I heard that everyone, including Joey Bosa, Joshua Palmer, who else? I got to find a better source here. Bills injuries today. But those were all sounding like they were coming back. And a lot of these stories are still from last week because they are from before the game. But it sounds like, that's the case. And remind me who else was out there. Yeah, Bosa, sounds like that's a better situation than we thought with Bosa. I don't believe there's anybody that's actually been ruled out at this point. We've got Ed Oliver, though, apparently, and he's going to be available at some point this season with the biceps, and there's 4 more regular season games to go, so he's got some weeks here to get that together, but Bosa might play, and I heard when Ed can come back. Yeah, it's basically the beginning of playoffs, I believe. If all our starters are playing, you definitely want to make a stand and stop the Pats from winning the division. Well, yeah, you don't want them to win the division away from you while you're there. They have to do it elsewhere, and they've got division games coming up. Didn't Brandon Cooks win a Super Bowl with Brady? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, he did. And Brandon Cooks is getting worked in a little bit more. You saw the other day they drew a big interference call that helped the Bills out on that drive, and but they're certainly looking better in the receiver room. Is the referee list out for the game on Sunday? I'm just thinking the refs could be a major cause of some of the calls going the Pats' way. I'm paranoid. Well, I'll tell you what. I'd rather not see Sean Hockley, but let's. I gotta find that. Let's see. Let's go. Bills at Patriots. The date of that game is what, 12/14. See if they tell us. I think this is probably old. I don't think that's accurate, so I have no idea. We'll learn more tomorrow with the press conferences from the Bills Wednesday pressers, where we'll hear the real thing on. But I think we're going to hear positives on Joshua Palmer, definitely, and Joey Bosa, perhaps. I think Terrell Bernard, I don't know what I heard on that, if he was doing any kind of work at all. And don't know whom else. All right, so we're getting to wind down here. What are you making for Christmas dinner? I'm going to make some ribeye and shrimp, maybe even lobster. Yeah, I normally do a prime rib on Christmas Eve, and then probably I think we're doing it just with ourselves this year, just my wife and the daughter and I. So probably just like do some kind of a turkey the next day, but then there's still prime rib left over, and we've made all this different stuff, and then it just turns into a whole freaking feast. But definitely shrimp is a great choice for Christmas Eve, though, and day for that matter. Before Hamlin, cardiac arrest was actually pretty good. He was out there hitting. I feel bad for him. Well, he was, and that was a tough thing. But in terms of safety, I mean, you're been in pretty good shape with Jordan Poyer and Cole Bishop. Cole, I saw this the other day. I saw Cole on the sideline, and then I saw them walking him into the locker room, and also you could see him sitting down, and they were trying to stretch him out. It was a cramping thing apparently, and nothing more. It must have been severe enough where they couldn't get him back out, which you kind of thought you would have needed, is to the extent you could. But at any rate, he was another one mentioned. Just got to win this weekend, so we have a chance to win the division again. If not, then the Pats win the division. We will play on the road in the playoffs. Yeah, absolutely. Because if you don't win your division, then you are a wild card. All wild cards go and end up with, the dog is disagreeing. No, all wild cards have to go on the road. What an amazing experience received being in the Bengals game. Please share with us the emotions of the moment. Ben for the pick six. I think I went over that before. It was awesome. And I remember just focusing on it and seeing run down, and, just the crowd response, just, amazing. I think we got way up on top in the comments. Not hearing Greg Rousseau's name in many games, paying him too much money. Well, perhaps. And Black Cloud that's awesome. Wish you and your family a lovely holiday. It's sure how much longer your show is going to go for. You mean tonight or into the future? I've been at it for 2 hours and 15 minutes tonight, and I think I babbled through a lot of it. Was wiped out. Was a big day of the game and the drive there and back, and then kind of ended up being up late watching a lot of football after I got back from the game, and then actually was forced to wake earlier than I had anticipated on Monday morning, and just drove yesterday. So we're just getting to it tonight, but had a lot of fun. But yeah, we'll have another show, a pregame show Saturday, and I'm probably going to be with you here either Wednesday or Thursday to talk about my thoughts, perhaps even tomorrow night after we hear the press conferences, the injury reports, and what it's looking like around the league, and get a look at who we want to root for this weekend for the Bills' best interest. It's that time to be able to start doing that. So I think we'll do that, and we'll talk about doing that on Wednesday, and then certainly a post a pregame actually on Saturday at some point. And not sure if we'll do that in the afternoon or evening. We'll get that scheduled way ahead of time, but probably stick with the evening as we have previous. But college football is over now. And then, of course, as usual, right after the game, then this week, after the Bills go visit and defeat the New England Patriots in Foxborough. So thanks so much for listening. I'm going to dash. Be good, do good, subscribe to the show. Please hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. But again, as always, be good, do good. God bless, and go Bills. I am the Ralph, and this is the Ralph Rant.